The most dangerous mutants in Chernobyl. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Globe. Today, we're diving into one of the most mysterious and haunting places on Earth, Chernobyl. Picture this: crumbling buildings, overgrown vegetation reclaiming the streets, and an eerie silence that blankets the abandoned city of Pripyat. Spooky, right? Let's take a virtual stroll through this ghost town and uncover the truth about the so-called dangerous mutants that lurk within. So, first things first, let's rewind to April 26, 1986. On this fateful day, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union, blew its top, literally. Collision and unexpected power surge led to a catastrophic explosion, spewing radioactive material into the atmosphere. It was chaotic. Residents were evacuated, leaving behind their homes and belongings. The environment, and by extension, nature itself, was bathed in radiation. Radiation comes in different forms, mainly alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. During the Chernobyl disaster, a nasty mix of these types was released. When living organisms are exposed to high levels of radiation, it can damage their DNA, leading to mutations. Mutations happen rapidly and en masse due to something like radiation, and it can have some pretty wild effects on plants and animals. The area around the reactor, known as the zone of alienation, or exclusion zone, is still highly radioactive in certain spots, even after all these years. But nature is nothing if not resilient. Let's talk plants. Seedling. One of the most famous areas in the exclusion zone is the red forest. After the explosion, the pine trees absorbed so much radiation that they died and turned a rusty red color, hence the name. Some plants in the area started showing unusual traits. There were reports of gigantism, plants growing larger than normal, and instances of dwarfism, where they were smaller. Leaves with strange shapes, odd pigmentation, you name it. These mutations affected how plants reproduced and could have disrupted biodiversity. However, some plants adapted, developing mechanisms to tolerate higher radiation levels. Now on to the critters. Paw insects like butterflies showed deformities, things like asymmetrical wings or strange markings. Studies found that they had shorter lifespans and issues with reproduction. It's tough being a bug in a radioactive zone. Birds weren't immune either. Some exhibited albinism, loss of pigment, making them white or pale. Small mammals like rodents showed increased mutation rates. Scientists observed physical deformities, but these were often subtle. Nothing like the giant mutant rats of urban legends. Rat fish in the nearby water bodies weren't spared. They accumulated radiation in their bodies, which affected not just them but the entire aquatic food chain. What about the monstrous creatures from movies and video games? Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but most of those are pure fiction. Clapperboard. While there have been mutations, they're not the stuff of nightmares, more like slight alterations that could give us insights into genetics and adaptation. The Darrow slug. This little guy became a subject of fascination because it seemed unusually resistant to radiation. Researchers noticed changes in its physiology and reproduction, possibly making it a super slug of sorts. Snail. The eastern tree frog. These frogs started producing more melanin, the pigment that gives color to our skin and hair, as a protective adaptation against radiation. Wild boars roaming the area have elevated radiation levels in their tissues. While they look perfectly normal, consuming their meat could be dangerous, affecting predators and scavengers alike. Scientists and tourists who venture into the exclusion zone have to be super careful. They follow strict safety protocols, like wearing protective gear and limiting the time spent in certain areas. Handling mutated animals brings up some ethical questions. Do we interfere and help these species, or let nature take its course? It's a delicate balance between conservation and letting natural adaptation unfold. Wildlife proliferation in the absence of humans. Believe it or not, the absence of humans has allowed wildlife to flourish. Species like wolves, bears, and lynxes have increased in number. Animals have changed their feeding and mating habits. With no humans to fear, they've expanded their territories, roaming into areas they previously avoided. Predator-prey relationships have adjusted to this new normal. The ecosystem has found a strange but functioning balance, showing us that life finds a way, even in the most challenging conditions. Organizations like the International Chernobyl Research and Information Network, ICRIN, have been studying the area extensively. Recent studies focus on how radiation affects genetics over multiple generations. Scientists are using drones and remote sensing to monitor wildlife without disturbing them. Genetic sequencing helps understand how mutations are passed on or mitigated. Understanding radiation resistance can help in medicine, like improving cancer treatments, and in environmental science. Popular culture depictions, movies, video games, and books often show Chernobyl as a wasteland filled with monstrous creatures. While they make for exciting stories, they're more fiction than fact. Movie camera. It's important to separate myth from reality. The actual mutations are generally subtle and scientifically fascinating, not horrific. The danger of sensationalism. Sensational stories can overshadow the real issues, like nuclear safety and environmental protection. Getting the facts straight helps us understand and learn from these events. Chernobyl serves as a stark reminder of how human actions can drastically affect the environment. It also shows the incredible resilience of nature. The future of Chernobyl's ecosystem. There's still so much to learn from this accidental experiment in ecology. Ongoing research could reveal more about adaptation and survival in extreme conditions. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride through Chernobyl. Remember, understanding our past can help us make better choices for the future. Let's keep exploring and advocating for a healthier relationship with our planet. Globe.